In this section, we'll learn how to unwrap your model and do a UV layout. So we got the model from the previous section, and we'll morph it and collapse it to editable poly. And the first thing I look for unwrapping is the seam, and I use the poly tools in Max and to do the seam editing instead of doing it in the external program. It's a lot faster and more effective for me to just cut the seam, export it, unwrap it, and bring it back. It's a lot faster to do so. So here you can see I'm detaching pieces into element, and I'm gonna use 2 pages, one for the head and one for the body. So whatever that's within the head, which is like the ears, I will detach an element instead of object. But the torso is going to be detached as an object because it's going to be in a separate page. So once you get all the seam ready, export into an external program. In this case, I'm using Unfold 3D. And all you have to do is to unfold and unfold with that buttons and fixing distortion with the checkerboard buttons. So there's only 2 buttons you need to use in this program. And bring it back to Max. And using the unwrap UVW modifier and fixing all the position of the element. And this tool on the right is made by Steve Johnson, originally from chucknut.com. And now you can probably get it from sloth.com. Diego is having, I probably took over the distribution. So now going back to the unfold progress, we are fixing the ears right now because it was originally flipped on each side, so I'm using the tool to flip it back. And the next step is to assign a checkerboard patterns to the mesh so we can check for distortion, additional distortion, and make the tile high so you can see the square a little bit smaller. And usually the nose is distorted. You can see the square is bigger. And also the eyes is distorted because we have the eyes open, so we need to address those 2 areas. Turn the grid off for better visibility. And a lot of time in production, we have a map that's the center of the face is only using 50% of the map. So now I'm trying to get the map of the face bigger. So it's using a better area of the whole full map. So now I select make sure the backface calling is off and select the face area, turn on soft selection, and use the FFD gizmo to scale up the face area. So now the face is using probably 70 to 80% of the map. So instead of making a huge map, I would recommend scaling the face up a little bit. It will be distorted on the boundary where the face and the hair cap meet. But since we're using texture projection in ZBrush and body paint, we don't really have to worry as much as before. And before body paint and ZBrush, I use cylindrical mapping that will give you very little distortion, but it will be a lot of stretching on the top of the head. Another area to fix is the eyelid. A lot of time, because of we're mapping the model with the eyes open, so when the character has its eye blink, the eyelid has a stretching texture. So instead of modeling the model with eye closed, map it and turn it back on, I would recommend doing it in the UV layout progress, which is right here. Try to close the eyes in the UV layout as much as you can and utilize all the space you have in those areas. And also the lips too. There's two steps to the lips. One is to do the same step with the lips, and also but even though you use the area as much as you can, because the lips, the corners are pressing together, so you need to actually opens up the lip in the model to get the texture projection. Otherwise, it will project cannot project through the corner of the lips. But we'll show that in different area in the different chapter. But here we're focusing on getting the vertices spread out and make sure there's no overlapping, because every time there's an overlap area, and when you export it to ZBrush or body paint, it would tend to crash or would not export the normal maps, right? So make sure there's no overlapping in the vertices. Here I'm using the relax tool on the right. And there's a lot of tool in this plugin and Mesh Script, and you can experiment with it. And here we're just focusing on making the page layout for the face. So I won't go over the detail on the tools. These are the tools that I use for the face. Normally just the soft selection and the gizmo, and you can do all kinds of other things in this plugin. And here I'm doing the same progress with the lips. You can do the edge loop, hold down Control and convert it into vert, and make it a little bit faster. And here now, once I'm happy with it, I can just weld the seam together. Select the edge, hold down Control, convert into vert, and weld selection. And right now, the corner of the face is actually exceeding the boundary of the UV space, and that will also crash ZBrush and body paint. So make sure that you are within the boundary plus 1 or 2 pixels smaller than what you need to be. It will be very minor, not using the space, but it will be safe to export it later on, and you won't have any problems. Make sure to move in a little bit. Yep, checking on 4 corners, and once you're happy, collapse it. That will mix in the UV into your mesh. And then before you start to another section. And here I'm using the 0 to 1 fit to make sure they all fit in the page. And then go back in with the gizmo, hold down Control Alt to scale from the outer corner. Make sure all those squares are even. And lined it up as packed it up as much as you can. And you can stretch it out a little bit because we're using projection mapping. And when you're done, you collapse it, turn it back to poly, select all the open edge, hold down Control to vert, and weld it together. And next step is to assign 2 different material ID, 1 for the head, and checked it in that section, and then 2 for the torso. So before you sew it together, you should assign it. And assigned it, and also there is a multi-sub-object. It allows you to have 2 different materials on 2 different slots for 2 different parts. It's called multi-sub-object, and you can set the number to however you want. In this case, we're using only 2, 1 and 2, 1 for the head and 2 for the torso. And once you assign to it, 1 will belong to material ID 1 that you just assigned, and same as material ID 2. And now you can finally sew the seam together. So when you open up the Unwrap UV page, you will see everything all meshed in together, overlapping. But there's a section on the drop-down menu on the bottom. You select 1 and just keep 1 in this own place, and 2, and offset the U direction into 1. So now you have a model ready, UV ready for ZBrush and body paint. Thank you for watching.